I know what you're thinking. You don't think I know what you're thinking? I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, what's with the tents? Oh, I know you, right? What's with the tents? Yes, Father. Thank you. The trick is to make it look easy. You heard it, right? Jesus took Peter, James, and John, his brother, and led them up a high mountain by themselves, and he was transfigured before them. Behold, Moses and Elijah appeared to them conversing with him. What is Peter's first response, huh? What does Peter say to Jesus? Yes, you remember, Lord, it is good that we are here. If you wish, I will make 3 tents here, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah. What's with the tents? It reminds me, sisters and brothers, back in the old country, back on Long Island, I would commute. I would take the Long Island Railroad in from to Brooklyn, where my office was. And some of that was underground, and some of that was above ground. And above ground was a lot of Jewish neighborhoods. And in the fall, in September or October, depending on the way that the Jewish calendar lined up with the Gregorian calendar, you would see on the rooftops little tents, little booths, little huts for the. That's often translated, depending on the translation, when you read the scripture, the Feast of Booths, or sometimes the Feast of Tabernacles. Every family would put a sukkah, a little shed, a little tent, and they would eat there, and they would maybe even sleep there, depending on the weather, I suppose. The great Feast of Sukkot, the Feast of Booths, the Feast of Tabernacles. We'll see that translation from the Latin word tabernaculum, meaning a hut, a space used outside the temple, used for religious reasons. As you recall, that's the word often used for the tent of meeting, as the people in the desert journey from Egypt to the Promised Land, where the Ark of the Covenant was held, was the meeting tent, was in the tabernacle. Perhaps Peter was supposing they would just stay there, live there, sleep there, eat there, with these 3 tents, these 3 sukkah, these 3 tabernacles. But of course, it's not unreasonable to, after all that glory, to want to find some rest, because our soul waits for the Lord, who is our help and our shield. And finding the Lord glorified before them, I don't know that that's an unreasonable response. But of course, Jesus had something else in mind. Huh? Rise, Peter, James, and John. Rise, he says to all of us, and do not be afraid. And they left the mountain because Jesus had work to do. Peter, James, and John had work to do. We've got work to do, even encountering the great glory of God. Of course, you sisters and brothers, you well know that we experience Christ's glorified body every time we come to Mass, every time we approach this mountain to see him glorified in the precious body and the precious blood. Of course, we see him glorified. We encounter his glorification every time we receive the sacraments. And it'd be easy just to stay here, to stay here with our tabernacle, huh? To stay here with that glory. But Jesus has something else in mind for us. Rise and do not be afraid, because we got work to do. That's not new. We heard how old man Abram, even before he was called Abraham, encountered in glory the living God. And God told Abram, go forth from the land of your kinsfolk and from your father's house to a land that I will show you. Abram encountered the living God. And he could have stayed there and rested in that glory. But God had a different plan for Abram. Eventually, a different name for Abram. Abram had work to do. We encounter in the sacraments, we encounter in the Mass, we encounter in the Holy Eucharist, Christ glorified, even in this Lent. And we could sit here and rest. And certainly, sisters and brothers, those of us who participate with any regularity in Eucharistic adoration knows what that's like. But we've got work to do. We hear about Christ being glorified, Christ being transfigured. But that transfiguration, this Lent, moves us to get up, get off the mountain, and get to work. So that with spiritual sight made pure, we may rejoice to behold God's glory. And getting to work, sisters and brothers, we may bear our share of the hardship of the gospel with the strength that comes from God. Praise be Jesus Christ, now and forever.